Okay, so I've been doing a little bit more on the Flea. It's coming on quite well. Yeah, so this is how it's developing at the moment. Yeah, the Bantam tank is a little bit longer, I suppose. See, it's where it comes, it sweeps down and it's slightly extended under the seat, whereas the Flea tank is a little bit shorter, but I think I'm willing to live with that. It's just the extra range model. Yeah, or it could be because I've just put some cardboard under it and it's jacked it up in the air and it's changed the angle that it sits at. Yeah, that could be all that it is, because I don't recall it looking like that before. In fact, I know it didn't. So yeah, it's because I've wrapped some cardboard around the crossbar and it's gone from being swung downwards to pointing up. So that's going to be okay when I redress it slightly. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. It's still possibly slightly longer than the original, but it's not going as far back as it was, you know. I'm still willing to accept that as a close enough. Yeah, certainly the shape is along the same lines, even if it's just fractionally longer, maybe an inch longer. Yeah, but other than that, everything's come together quite well. The lacing on the rear wheels all worked out, and on the front, I've done them myself. Assembled the wheels myself, put all the spokes in, just stuck it on my knee while I was watching TV, and put it all together on my lap. Now, in terms of truing up the spokes, all I did was turn the bike upside down so the wheels were in the air. Then I got two cable ties and an old pencil, and I cable tied pencil on the side of the forks, and so you could slide it in and out, and I basically pushed the pencil further and further in as I worked round, and then adjusted the tension on the spokes, essentially by tightening up the spoke on this side pulls the wheel rim out this way, tightening up the spokes on the other side pulls it that way, and obviously you also slacken the one off opposing it. So if you want to bring the rim this way, you slacken off the spokes on both sides of this spoke, so you slacken them off slightly and tighten this one in and pull it over. Now there's still a few threads on these spokes visible, but I'm hoping that's not going to be an issue, because if I wanted them to be much longer than this, then it would potentially mean me having to get custom spokes made. Now these spokes are 190mm off a push moped, so they were designed for 17-inch rims, but these are 18-inch rims. But up to now, they seem to be doing the job okay. yeah, the suspension spring I've put at the top here, that needs to be swapped out for a lighter gauge spring because it's designed for a push bike rear, but it's designed to be used with a large leverage acting upon it. So basically you'd normally have a long swing arm on the back of the bike with a big acting as a big lever and a pivot point here, say, and that spring would get compressed somewhere around here with a big lever pushing the tail up and down. So that spring there, for the job that it's doing on the front, is way too heavy. I knew that when I was ordering it, but I was ordering it basically for the unit with the intention of swapping the spring out. But it looks nice. I've put grease nipples in on all the swivel points where there's a rod that's going to be moving, so that'll have grease injected in and it'll be coming out at the ends, essentially, making sure everything stays well lubricated. That's it. Right, big changes. Yesterday I was at a event and there was a World War II flying flea actually at the event, and I was able to take some photographs, no video but photographs, and I took some measurements, and I found out that from what I can remember, the distance between the forks should be 4 inches. Now 4 inches is a relatively standard cycle hub, which I do happen to have kicking round off a rusty old bike now. But while I'm stripping this hub down, this is a 135 dropout hub, and it's now too wide. It needs to be a 100mm dropout, which is 4 inches. Other thing we've noticed is on the steering there needed to be some changes made, and on the bottom of the steering knuckle I had welded a pipe across the front, and I now know that it should be right through the center of the base of the pipe, so I've been getting on with doing that as well. So the whole thing is being re-engineered. It's being narrowed so that there's only 4 inches between the inner surfaces of the forks. Also, these forks here, which I've made out of 1-inch pipe, they really should be narrower. They should be cut in half and fabbed out of half a piece of pipe, but I'm not sure if this gauge steel will do. So for the time being, I'm just going to carry on using these girder forks, and I'm just going to get all the inner pieces and narrow them in so that these then are only 4 inches apart. Let's see how I do. Okay, this is a 18-inch motorcycle wheel, and I'm fitting a bicycle hub in the center. It's a standard like 100mm dropout bicycle hub. Now what I'm using is push push moped spokes. Now these kits are only about 15 quid, and they are approximately, I think, 3mm thick. Can't remember what gauge that means they are, But what you will have to do is you will have to drill all the holes out in the central hub so that these wire spokes will fit through. Then what you also need, obviously it'll come with these with the spoke nipples. Now the spoke nipples on these push moped spokes, they go through the holes, but there is some slack in them. Now you can work and use it with this slack, but what I've found is if you go to a DIY store, you can buy these eyelets for leathercraft or for putting in for your shoelaces or something, but they're larger than shoelace eyelets. You want 6mm ones. This basically means that if you place the spoke nipple through the eyelet, you will see that it's taking up the space. Now if I now place that through the hole, you will see the slack has mostly been removed. It will still allow for some swiveling, but there's far less slack in there. Now you will notice that the shape is not perfect, but as these are quite light gauge collets, or what do they call them? Yeah, as the metal in this is quite light gauge, they will actually crush into shape and take up the shape around the spoke nipple quite well once you start to tighten them, put them under pressure. So there's no real issues there. So the way I'm doing this is, you can just do this on your knee, but what you need to do is you need to put all the spokes in to the hub before you start. So that's both sides, and you also need to make sure that they are laced the way that you're going to be wanting them. So with this wheel I'm doing them alternate, so one's this way in and then the next one's this way. Yeah, so nice and simple. And the way this works is your spokes can be swung around and then you've put them into position. You will also notice that on a motorcycle wheel the holes have got angles to them, so they will point directly to the corresponding hole on the hub. So you need to make sure once you start lacing it that you get the sequence correct. You will also find that most likely you're going to have this probably one hole out from the arrangement that you've got on the other side, in terms of one in from the outside and so on, and one in from the inside. Yeah, so you're going to have to put it slightly off center. Now when you start putting this together, you should be able to put these in, and you want to start by effectively crossing these over. At the moment, because I've not got two hands free, I can't show you that spoke will actually go into that hole there. And then hang on, let me get this correct. Yeah, this will go over to that hole there, and then this one will come over. I've just noticed I've got an error here. That's why I've got problems. So I'm going to have to rectify this and then go on. Okay. Okay, so that's one side now done. I corrected the slight error. I put one spoke in from the wrong direction, but everything seems to be working out correctly. Obviously, these holes, there's two sides on the rim, so there's generally a gap between the spokes for the other side and the spoke holes for this side and the spokes holes for the other side. Okay, so make sure that you don't start putting them in incorrectly. So it's not that hard to actually do this. You don't need any special contraptions. Just put all the spokes in first and then work around progressively, making sure that you put one spoke underneath the other one and get it correct, you know. So one spoke goes across to that hole, and then the other spoke comes back from that side and comes across to this hole. And once you've done that, everything looks pretty much spot on. The eyelets are all sitting there in the holes. Once we start to tighten these down after we've done the other side, then they should, in theory, crush slightly and sit very neatly in the holes. If after you've used it for some time you find that they start to change, I'm sure you could take the wheel off and readjust them, tighten them up and so on, and re-true it after you've done a few miles. Shouldn't be much of a chore to do. Okay, I'm going to get on with the other side now. Once it's all assembled, basically you can see that the eyelets have actually already crushed into shape. They've pulled in, and it's all working out quite well. Now these, I might have said before, these spokes are 190mm spokes, and I think the wheel rim is an 18" by 1.85, I think it is. Now the 1.85 is the distance between the two sides inside here. Let me have a little look. I think that's 1.85 inches, and if we look at that there, it actually looks more like 2 on here, but I'm pretty sure, there we go, the measuring doesn't actually start until that point there. Yeah, which makes it actually look more, look even wider. But from what I can remember when I ordered these, they were 1.85s, but it says 2" wide on here. But that doesn't really come into it. Basically, as I say, these this is a 100mm hub and an 18" rim, and the spokes are 190mm with these 6mm eyelets fitted in on the spoke heads, and the spokes are push moped spokes. So with all those things, you should be able to make up one of these wheels quite easily. And these give you an alternative to 26" wheels on an e-bike or so on, and they look quite good. For instance, here is the setup when done with a powered hub. This is a 500 watt hub, and I've also had to drill out the spoke holes on this hub. Now for this one, I've laced them all with the rivet, the round head on the outside, and crossed them like this, but it all works out quite well. But I've also had to use a 150mm spoke on these, and they are normal motorcycle spokes, which means the actual nipples are larger and fit perfectly into the wheel rim. Whereas for this one, using push spokes, I've fitted these little eyelets in, and they look quite good. You can see, if you look up closely, the eyelets are actually slightly protruding through the wheel rim, so you can see that they're there, and these are brass, and I think they look quite nice. Next job will be to trim the wheel up, and to do that I basically just mount it in some forks, and mount a pencil at the side, cable tied on the forks, and so it next to this point on the rim, and then I just spin the rim around and adjust the spokes correspondingly until I can pull the rim in and out, left or right I should say. Okay.